So when we think about the International Space Station, we've now been in low Earth orbit for almost 20 years. It's an amazing tool of diplomacy. We've had astronauts from dozens of countries on the International Space Station. We've had 15 nations working or operating the International Space Station now for almost 20 years. And of course, we've had experiments from 103 different countries on the International Space Station. Here's the thing. We want to take all of what we've learned from a diplomatic perspective, and we want to apply it all the way to the moon for a sustainable return to the moon, or a sustainable moving forward to the moon and then on to Mars. So in order to make that happen, we need to take advantage of commercial industry in low Earth orbit. When we think about the medicines and the pharmaceuticals that are being developed on the International Space Station in a way that you cannot develop those medicines in a gravity well. We think about the idea that we're creating materials on the International Space Station in a way that you cannot create those materials on Earth because of the gravity well. And when we think about the ability to do things like print human organs in 3 dimensions on the International Space Station that you cannot do in a gravity well, what we're seeing is that there is a commercial marketplace for these activities in low Earth orbit where the private sector can invest and then capitalize on those investments, and then NASA could be a customer of many customers in low Earth orbit, and then we can take the resources that the taxpayers give us and go on to the moon and on to Mars. So the government should be doing what only the government can do and let the private sector do what the private sector does best.
So it is a real shift then. For example, to get people up to the ISS, you're going to be partnering with the likes of SpaceX and Boeing. Do you think that the future of exploration is likely to be privately rather than publicly funded, or will it be a mix?
It'll be a mix. So you're exactly right. This year we're going to launch what we call Commercial Crew. We're going to take American astronauts and launch them on commercial rockets where NASA is not owning and operating the rocket, but we're buying a service to get to and from the International Space Station. The interesting thing is there are seats on those rockets more than there are NASA astronauts that will be riding in those seats, which means if there's an industry desire to do experimentation on the International Space Station, we're going to open it up for that activity. If there's university desire, research desire, if there's international partnership desire to go to the International Space Station and do research, we want to open it up for that activity. So the answer is NASA wants to be one customer of many customers in a robust commercial marketplace in low Earth orbit, and we want to have numerous providers that are competing on cost and innovation. The goal being to drive down cost and increase access to space for all of humanity and do it in a commercial way so that we can focus our resources on going back to the moon and onto Mars.